Hi there, this is Wendy. I'm so excited that you're here with me today. I have a fun video for you today, but it is not crafty. So I want you to know right up front that this is my special Demonstrator Thursday video, and this video is geared directly towards demonstrators. So if you are looking for a crafty video, I've got plenty of other videos on my YouTube channel that you can check out, and this video may not be for you. However, if you're a little bit interested in some of the stuff that goes on as being a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, then I encourage you to watch and tune in to Thursday videos with me and just check them out, because you might find something interesting, or you might decide you want to purchase the Stampin' Up! Starter Kit from me and start your own business. So today I'm kind of doing a Q&A. I've been getting a lot of questions lately about different things, and I've done a Q&A one other time, and I thought it was about time to do another one, because sometimes I can't create a whole video for one question, but I want to make sure that I'm answering people's questions when they send me emails. So I got an email from Ashley, and she asked me several questions, and they're all really fantastic questions. So I'm going to answer all of them. And she sent me this email way back in May, and I'm just now answering. So I'm sorry for that, Ashley. But let's get to it. So one of the questions she has for me is, do you send out thank you cards each month to customers? Absolutely, yes. I think it's absolutely a bare minimum essential piece of your business to send out a thank you card to your customers for ordering from you. And this doesn't matter if they're ordering online or in a class, or they found you through their friend and they just said, hey, can you buy this for me from a friend, or whatever. As many people as you can send a thank you card to and acknowledge that you appreciate them, the better. After all, that's what we do, right? We make cards. So we're one of the things. We also do paper crafting, but it's really important to show people your gratitude. And I would say in this day and age, it's so rare to get excellent customer service that when you provide that level of service to somebody, they will never forget it. They will continue to shop with you, and they'll continue to come back to you, because think about the last time you made a purchase somewhere and got a thank you card. It's pretty unusual. So I would really recommend doing that as a very bare minimum in your business, to always send a thank you card and an acknowledgement of an order. The second question is, do you write in the card or do you add a note so that the customer can reuse the card? I have tried both. I personally used to write a note, but then I started thinking, you know, it's really not a card that they can use then if I write something in it. So now I actually take the card, I put an envelope with it, I stamp my information on the back of the card, excuse me, and I put it in a little clear cello bag, the ones that Stampin' Up! Sells, the clear envelopes in the catalog. I put it in there and I seal it up, and I put it in a whole nother envelope. I have special envelopes made from Vistaprint, and they just have my return address already printed on them, and I order them, and they're 6x9, and I order them in bulk, and I mean big bulk, like 500 to 1,000 of them at a time, which saves me some money. And so I recommend doing something like that, where you're sending them the gift that they can then open and reuse however they want. Do you always send a card, or do you do anything as an alternative? Not sure what maybe a thank you tag. I have done alternatives in the past, things like card kits. It just kind of depends on what I feel like I can accomplish that month. Sometimes I will say, you know, if you make an order with me and use a host code, you can get a card kit of the month for free, and it might have 3 different card kits in it, and then I provide a video so that they can complete those cards. Every once in a while I do something like that, but ultimately shipping is getting ridiculous. The cost of shipping is getting absurd. So recently I did that. I did a card kit giveaway, and I also gave a thank you card in addition to it, and I really regretted it because it ended up costing me $4.81 to ship every single one of those thank you packets. So that was a ton of money that I spent shipping those thank you gifts. So I really caution you, if you can make sure that what I should have done is made sure that the card kits were slender enough to go through a 1/4 of an inch slot and that they didn't weigh too much. That was my fault. I should have done better on my card kits. So then you have to be really careful of the kind of card kit you design to make sure that they don't go over those amounts. And if you need details on shipping, it's going to be different for different countries, but in the United States, you can go to USPS.com. I have a scale right here in my office. I can weigh stuff, and then I can go to USPS.com and enter all the information and know how much it's going to cost me to ship. Had I done that prior to developing the card kits, I would have been more mindful and careful, and it wouldn't have cost me as much. Do you give back any kind of gifts using a monthly host code? I think I kind of just answered that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Mostly I do. And also I do a rewards program. So when somebody orders from me on a regular basis, they can put that on a sheet, and when they get 8 punches, every time they place a $50 order or more, they get a punch. And when they get 8 punches, they can turn that in for $40 worth of product. So essentially, it's like getting 10% back on their orders. How do you keep track of monthly customers? Is it simple as going into DBWS and looking at orders for a specific month so you can identify customers and send them cards? That's what I've been doing, but I'm wondering about an alternative method. So my assistant handles this. She goes into my order history, she looks at them, she takes that information and she puts it into a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet is held online in Google Sheets, and both her and I can access it separately, but it's stored on Google Sheets. And that way I can see the ordering trends, who has ordered, and that's the list we use to send and mail thank you gifts out from. If you do a paper share or online card class, how do you keep track of who purchased it? Or do you just keep notes of names on paper, or do you have a spreadsheet? So I will show you. I didn't actually read this question before we started, but I'm going to grab this and show you. Here's one. So these are my packets or my sign-up forms from 123 Form Builder. That's who I use for signups for my classes and my paper shares. When somebody signs up, I get notification in email. I print that notification off and I keep it. And then I go into 123 Form Builder where there's a spreadsheet there, and when I'm ready to place my orders or when I'm ready to do something with that class and close it out, I deactivate the form on 123formbuilder.com, and then I go ahead and take the forms that I have, I keep them handy so that I can record information on them, like if I've sent them an invoice, if they've paid the invoice, their tracking number, things like that. I purchase all of their shipping stuff. I buy prepaid shipping envelopes, padded envelopes, and I use my PayPal card to do that. Here's a little tip for you. If you want to get extra cash back, that's basically free cash in your pocket, then use your PayPal business card. And it's not a credit card, it's a debit card attached to your PayPal account. But when you use that for purchases, they actually give you money back on it. So I've gotten lots of money back before because I use it for my SU orders when I'm putting an order in for a online class or a paper share. Okay, so I order my shipping stuff. So these are prepaid envelopes. So I have the printout there. I do my Stampin' Up order and I print that out. So I have the printout here of the Stampin' Up order I had to place to complete the class or the event. And then of course I have all my sign up forms. And then there's the spreadsheet that's held inside 123 Form Builder, and that's how I do it. And then when I'm ready to close everything out, I can pull that spreadsheet from 123 Form Builder. I can email everybody that's in the class, and I can print my labels and all of that that needs to be done, or I can handwrite them, or however I want to do it. So that's how I do it. There's 1,000,001 ways to do it. This could not even be the best way. There might be better ways to do it, but this is how I do it, and it's what works well for me and my sister, who is my assistant. So she gets all of these, the packet of them, and she keeps them with everything while she's cutting the card kits. And then when we get the product and the card kits and everything's ready to go, we get together, we package everything together, we kind of do a quality control process, and stuff slips through. Sometimes it doesn't work out well, but we try really hard to make sure that we don't like lose anybody's stuff and that everything gets shipped correctly. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, so I hope that answers your questions on that. And then I have some more questions. Oh, that's not the right one. This one. Here we go. Okay, so this is from Pip Todman, and I met Pip on the Greek IELTS trip, and I really adore her. She's very sweet. And so she asked a few different things. She asked, what about taking credit card, debit cards via Square payments? So I just added Square payments to my 123 Form Builders that I send out in email. And I can collect payments that way. You can't put any sort of link on your website or your blog for any sort of payments for classes or anything that includes product. So that's really important to know. But using a Square isn't a bad idea. I wouldn't use a Square for any orders. So like if somebody placed an order with you, I wouldn't use a Square to take that order, because you can just input that order into the system using their card. Credit debit card via PayPal. Yeah, I use PayPal constantly, and I have a debit card for them. I just went over that, and it's amazing because you get cash back on it. So I highly recommend that. There are people who don't have PayPal, and actually you can get PayPal payments through PayPal, but the other person doesn't have to have PayPal. They can use their credit card to complete the payment. However, I've had a few customers recently tell me that they're having problems with that. So I'm not sure if that's on their end or if it's an actual PayPal issue or what. Direct transfer to bank account, retreat monthly payments, and some team training and SU. Yeah, so I transfer money to my personal account once a month generally. Sometimes it's more if I'm getting extra payments through PayPal for selling my workbook or different things like that. But generally there's one time a month that I make one transfer to my personal bank account, and that is my paycheck. Because really when I bring money into my Stampin' Up! Business account, okay, my checking account, that money is not my money. That's my business's money. And that money gets used to pay bills in my business and do things in my business. I figure out what needs to be paid, and whatever money is left then gets transferred to my personal account, and then I make decisions with what I'm going to do with that money at a personal level. So this is a really hard lesson I had to learn, and I still struggle with it. There are still times that I'm out and about and I'm doing something and I grab my business card and use it instead of my personal card, which is a huge no-no. You should never do that. But I do occasionally in a pickle or whatever. And so I'm not perfect. I don't do this perfectly. I make mistakes. I get forgetful. I get really bad at recording my income and my expenses coming in and out of my bank account, because sometimes I'm just overwhelmed with all the things I have to do in a day. So there are times where I have to spend an hour or two catching up on stuff like that. So don't beat yourself up and don't get too crazy about all the little finite details. The ultimate end game here is that you're tracking it enough and you're doing enough to know I'm paying all my Stampin' Up! Bills and then I have money left over. She says, keeping track is horrendous, and I never know whether to say I received it on the day it arrives or count it on the day that it's for. So cash comes to me for prepaying for a class in October. Yep, they pay me early, but do I put that down as June's income or October's income? Okay, so I totally feel you here, Pip. I know exactly what you're talking about. And my answer is it's recorded when it's received. So I don't know, because I know you're in another country. So I feel like some of this stuff you might want to ask a tax professional where you live, what your rules and regulations are. But here's how I feel and what I look at the end of the day. At the end of the day, right? This is like the Oprah's what I know for sure is as long as I'm being honest and I'm claiming everything that's coming in, and this is, I'm speaking for the United States. I don't know what it's like other places, okay? But for me, I know if I'm claiming what's coming in and then I'm expending what's really going out, and I'm being honest and above board with all of those things, it ultimately doesn't matter. Because honestly, the IRS, when I do my taxes at the end of the year, with my accountant, he doesn't ask what month any of this happened in. He just wants my 1099s. He just wants to know that I received the income, and then he wants to know that it went out. He doesn't really care what month it happened in. We should track that for our own selves, and in case I was ever audited, I would want to be able to provide that information. But I don't think that that's something that you should get hung up on, I guess is what I'm saying. So the way I do it, and again, I say every time, I am not a tax professional. I am not a financial advisor. You have to seek professional advice for these things. I'm just telling you what I do personally. I record income when it comes in. So I know exactly what you're talking about here when you say, you know, for example, you have a class coming up, but the class maybe is in November and you take a bunch of money in October to pay for the class. So then everything looks really out of balance. It looks like you got all this income in October and then maybe you're in the negative in November because you spent all that money. And so it looks uneven because you didn't have the income coming in November. That's okay. At the end of the year, it washes out, right? It all evens out at the end of the year. So don't get too caught up in the monthly amount. Focus more on the big picture. Because yes, I took in, when I did my annual catalog paper share, I took in a lot of money in April and May. So it looked like I had enormous amounts of income. But then in June, I put in an enormous order. So all that money went back out. So not all of it, but a chunk of it. So you have to know those things and you have to recognize like, okay, that's going to happen and it's totally fine. Okay. Let's see. Any idea? Okay, so she's saying she wants to purchase my workbook, but wouldn't know how to handle these types of things. And yep, I've been running my business full time like this for over 3 years. Okay, so she's running it on a spreadsheet, which I do the same thing. At the end of every month, I take everything I'm doing and I enter it into a spreadsheet. And that spreadsheet is for my accountant. And I take all my receipts and I enter it. I take all my income and I enter it, and I track all of it that way. So you just have to know that the workbook, and for those who have never seen one of my videos, if you've made it this far and you're watching this, we're referring to my business budget workbook, which is a special workbook that I've created for Stampin' Up! Demonstrators to help track their finances. So, and which, by the way, this is the last week that you can get it at this price. It's going to increase in price next week because I've added a bunch of other forms to it, and people who have already purchased it are going to get the update for free. So if you want it at the $24.99 price, the link is below the video. You can purchase it between now and sometime between now and next Thursday. Is it next Thursday? Maybe you have 2 more Thursdays. But anyway, you can purchase it and get it at that lower price. So that's what we're talking about. So the workbook is simply a month-to-month planner and tracker. So you can look at what needs to go out, look at what's coming in, and you can see it on a monthly basis rather than, it's basically being proactive instead of reactive. So you can, for me, my spreadsheet is something I enter at the end of every month, not at the beginning of the month. So that's an important difference, right? Because at the beginning of the month, I can sit and I can budget and I can plan and I can look at all the things I need to look at. And then I can go through the month and do my things. And then at the end of the month, I can go enter all that information into a spreadsheet. So really important piece there for you to know. Okay, so that is, I think, everything. I had one other question. Somebody asked if it was possible for me to do a video that contained information on my reports, which is, they're referring to, there's a section in Demonstrator, the Demonstrator website, where I can go to my reports and I can go to an activity report, and there's an area that says additional information or additional reports, and it has different reports in it. There's a payment history there, deferred income, and commissions, and she's wanting to understand what all those pieces are. So the problem is I can't show you that because I don't have a dummy system. And the only reason I can't show you that is because it has other people's personal information on there. So if we were to go to my computer and I were to pull up my reports and I were to pull up these areas she's talking about, it's going to reveal customers' names, team member names, and stuff like that. And that, I would never do that. So I don't want to put anybody's name or information out there that I don't have permission to do that with. And I cannot collect everybody's permission, so that's not something I'm going to be able to do. What I can tell you is instant income, as I can break down the income pieces for you really quick, and then we're going to wrap this video up, and I'll be back again next week with something else for you. But instant income is the income that you keep off of an order instantly. So if you take $50 for an order, you get to keep 20 or 25% of that order, depending on what level you are with Stampin' Up. If you're bronze, you keep 20%. If you're bronze elite or above, you keep 25%. So the rest of that money would get deposited in your bank account. You would place the order for the person, and then Stampin' Up would take the money out of your bank account. So if somebody pays you with a cash or a check, that is how the money is handled. And you get to keep 20 to 25% of that, and that is instant income, okay? So deferred income is if somebody pays with a credit card or it's an online order, then Stampin' Up! Takes the full amount of money from that person, and the following week they deposit 20 to 25% of that amount into your bank account. That's deferred income because it's deferred. It's deferred a week, okay? So that's that income. Then there's volume rebate. Your volume rebate is the amount of money that you receive every month based on your sales for that month. So if your sales are over $600, you get an extra 4% bonus at the end of the month, and so on and so forth, topping out at 13% if your sales are $3,500 or more. So that's an extra way to earn income. There's other ways that you have to claim income. We receive flex points. When we receive flex points, then we use those flex points for things, and when we use them, that's counted as income, because even though Stampin' Up's not giving us cash in hand, they're giving us product, or they're giving us something that costs them money, and they're writing that off, and so we're claiming it as an income, okay? And it is all broken down for you in those reports. And if you earn over $600 in a year in the US from Stampin' Up! In downline overrides and bonuses, I'm not sure if instant income is counted in that. I don't think it is. Then you get a 1099. And a 1099 is a form that's an IRS form that you turn in to your accountant or your tax professional when you do your taxes to claim the income. That's why you need to keep track of your expenses so that you can write those things off so that you have an offset from that income you're receiving, if that makes sense. Okay. I think I've covered all the questions that I've received recently. I hope that this has helped some of you, all of you, whoever's watching, and I hope you enjoyed Q&A for today. If you have any other questions for me, always feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I'm always happy to answer them. And if you want to purchase my workbook, I would really appreciate that. One of the ways that, I get asked all the time, why don't I charge for this training? Well, I just don't feel called to do that at this time. I feel like this is my way to give back to my demonstrator community. I feel like this is fun for me. I enjoy doing it. I love teaching. I love speaking. It's a passion of mine, and I feel called to share and give back to the community that has helped me grow and be successful. And so I do have the workbook that I sell, but outside of that, I don't charge for any of these trainings. I have been asked recently if I would do a more extensive training and possibly charge for something like that, and I'm considering it. I'm praying about it and considering it. So I'm pondering that. So we'll see if I end up doing something like that. But in fact, I would love to hear from you if you would be interested in a training like that. The training that was requested of me was to do training on how to run a team and team budgeting and all of those types of things, but to do it in a way that was really more elaborate and extensive. So maybe it would include 3 or 4 videos, and maybe it would include some special documentation and different things like that. So if you're interested in something like that, I would really love to know. Drop it in the comments below. That would be something I would probably charge for because of the time it would take to prepare and create something like that. So I think that's it. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed Demonstrator Thursday, and I will be back with you next Thursday. Talk to you soon. Bye.